Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to Samus Prime. I'm Jason and I am back with another video in my Echoes Let's Play. Let's go ahead and get started and jump into the gameplay. Alright, just one moment. Get that sound going. Okay. Alright, so I hope everyone had a great week. I know I did. Another eventful week for me, working on the project as well as just IRL stuff. But I'm excited to be back here playing this game and talking shop. Today I wanted to talk a bit about MP4. There's been quite a bit of news that's come out over the past 6 months that I haven't really said much about. And one of the reasons is I've just kind of was a little bit burnt out, to be honest with you. After Nintendo announced that they were going to shelve the development and restart. Well, it's been more than 2 years ago now that happened. You know, it kind of let a little bit of the wind out of my sails, and so that's why the content kind of died down a little bit at that point. And I think it wasn't just me. I noticed there were other YouTube channels that were Nintendo based or heavily Metroid based that had some of the same feelings, I think. It took some time, but I'm over it now and I'm excited for MP4 again. I've always been excited. I can't say for certain with any real excitement that I believe we'll hear anything about the game anytime soon. I'd like to think that we would see something this year, a trailer or something, being that it's been in development for 2 years now at Retro. But as per the norm, Nintendo is silent when it comes to games that haven't released yet, so we haven't heard anything from Nintendo, and that's kind of the toughest part about being a Metroid fan. But that's usually the case with Nintendo games, and we know that Metroid is an important IP to Nintendo, or they wouldn't have restarted the development and they wouldn't have put it in the hands of a better studio. If Bandai Namco really was a studio originally developing Metroid Prime 4, then I'm definitely excited and happy that they moved the development over to Retro, because I feel like the game definitely belongs in the hands of a Western studio, and I'll get more into that here in a minute. Oh, I love this part of the game. But yeah, I think that let's go ahead and go to gameplay only. I think that Nintendo, is definitely sees the importance in this game, and that's probably why we haven't seen anything from it. They know that if they mess this one up, it could be maybe the final nail in the coffin of Metroid. I hate to say that, but it's definitely possible. Seeing what happened with Other M, and really the franchise in general, has been kind of on a downward spiral ever since Corruption. I mean, we have Samus Returns, which is a good 3DS game. The more I've played that game, the more I realize that I don't know if it's the level design or what it is, but it's just not quite up to the standards that I have for Metroid as far as replayability goes. I've played it through that game actually quite a few times, but it just doesn't feel as fun to play through more than once as, say, a Super Metroid does. So that's one issue that I have with the game. But also, I think the series as a whole definitely needs a return to form, and so we've got to put our hopes that Nintendo is doing the right thing, and behind the scenes that the development of the game is going well. We've all heard that the development of Metroid Prime, the original Prime game, did not go well for Retro. But they obviously learned a lot, because this game's amazing, and the first game's amazing, but this game's even better, I think, in all the right ways. And so they learned a lot, obviously, and they grew. And I felt like Corruption was also a move forward in some ways, but also a step backward in others, in that the level design was definitely inferior to the first two games, especially this one. But I think we'll see a return to form for Nintendo with Prime 4, and I have reason to be optimistic. When I sat and thought about it, there's a lot of reason to be optimistic, actually. I mean, for one, Retro's investing in themselves. It was reported that they were actually buying a new building, but then it turns out that wasn't true, that they're actually just investing in the building they're in to improve it. And so that's a good thing. And anytime a company's growing, with all the hiring Nintendo is doing as well, obviously they need more room, or just they need the space to be better for production, maybe more efficient. I love this model. It's nice. And according to the research that I did and what I found online, it's believed that there are about 25 of the 50 developers who worked on Corruption still at the studio. So I feel like they have a good base there. They have a base of developers who know what Prime needs to be, because I definitely think it still needs to be a Metroidvania and have those tropes that are going to please the core fans. But based off of who they're hiring, I can see where there may be some changes as well coming, and some exciting ones at that. One of the things that I did enjoy about Other M, I guess that might be a blasphemous thing to say, but I actually did enjoy some things about Other M. Combat and different things in the game aren't bad, but I really did like the fact that they tried to go big on the production value, and I feel like production value can be a good thing. Higher production value can be a good thing if done right. One of the issues I had with Other M was just the story, and really sci-fi in general when it comes to an Eastern studio versus a Western studio. Their culture obviously is different, and so their sci-fi is different than, say, Western sci-fi. I notice a lot of the cutesier stuff we see in Eastern sci-fi. It's kind of like a marriage of stuff that we would probably put in fantasy. So I guess it's science fiction and fantasy combined in a sense. You have some, you'll have like cutesy alien characters that are like furry and in an Eastern sci-fi type game or story. Whereas a lot of Western sci-fi, although we do have that fantasy science fiction, also as far as if you think about something like Star Wars, but we also have science fiction that's more based in reality. And so say something like an Aliens movie, which is what Nintendo had originally used as inspiration for the Metroid franchise. So being that that's a Western science fiction, it has a certain feel that I haven't seen anyway a lot of Eastern developers do in that way. They have their own style, and so there's definitely a different style to Other M. Because of that, I feel like the writing is a little bit over the top, and a lot of the voice acting. And then also, I've read and I've seen stories that people have done on YouTube where they're talking about the translation of the game itself and how that actually affects a great deal how the game was received. And if it had been properly translated, it would have been a lot better received. I'm not sure, but let's see. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the case or not, but yeah, I guess translation can definitely affect the lore of a game. But anyway, getting back to my point, that a Western studio I think is a little bit better suited for this type of science fiction franchise, and mainly because that's just the aura that Nintendo captured with the game originally, that really atmospheric feeling, and that really foreboding feeling of being alone. It's all there, and a lot of that came from the Aliens franchise. So I feel like by going back to a Western studio, it's definitely for the best, and I'm really excited for that. And I think Retro investing in themselves and hiring more people and who they're hiring also kind of paint a picture of where they're going with the game, and it's pretty exciting actually the more I thought about it. One of the job ad mentions that they're looking for someone to help them create emotional scenes and cinematic pillars, and so that's kind of what brought up the whole thing in my mind of Other M and the higher production value being a good or a bad thing. As we see in the game like this, it's, you know, there's more simplistic in-engine cutscenes, which I prefer. I hope everything is in-engine in the new game. I don't like pre-rendered cutscenes, as you see in this playthrough. They don't hold up well. But yeah, I'm hoping that everything's in-engine, but at the same time, it's going to be more cinematic for sure. They're definitely going for a more cinematic and, I think, action feel to the game. The reason why I say action is because based off who they're hiring and, you know, the games that those developers worked on, it really feels like that's what they're going for. They're going to add a certain level of action to the game that it doesn't currently have, and that's the beauty of bringing in new blood. They're gonna, you know, they're gonna have new ideas. Well, you know, I've been wanting to look at these models. I don't think I've looked at these guys yet. Let's take a look at these guys real quick. War Wasp. Once again, excellent animation. Good texture design too. Art design is awesome in this game. I love it. Yeah, I think they're definitely gonna go for a higher level of production value in the new Prime game, and it's gonna have those same kind of cinematic feels that they went for in Other M, but because it's done by a Western studio, it's gonna be closer to what we're expecting from Metroid, based off of these original Prime games, especially. Okay, so now I gotta go down. Trying to remember where I'm supposed to go. Sometimes playing and talking is a little bit harder than. Okay, this is it. It's a little harder than walking and chewing bubblegum. But yeah, back to the hires. I didn't write down any names because I'm bad with names and I'll probably butcher the names, so I didn't want to say the names of these particular developers, but I did make notes on where they came from, what their positions were. It looks like we've got someone who came from Call of Duty Black Ops franchise. They worked on Black Ops 4 as a lead engineer, and they're going to be a lead engineer on Prime 4, and so that's kind of what I was talking about, where the game is probably going to have a faster pace, more action. You know, some of these battles definitely are a little faster paced, I guess, but they're just kind of like, you know, rare, these little cutscenes, and they're really simple. So as you see, this is just when we first encounter the Dark Pirates. It's like Technica. Pretty cool. Textures on this are definitely muddy and need to be updated. But yeah, I think you know, you have these elements in the Prime game. There are some action elements, obviously. It is a shooter, but they're few and far between. They don't really give you a lot of reason to fight these guys more than once. You have to fight them the initial time you come across them in order to get out of this room. Otherwise, you wouldn't even have to fight them now. But so you had to do that to unlock this. And there's a puzzle in here, so you obviously couldn't do the puzzle, you know, with those guys shooting at you. Hold on. Some lore down here.
Recording to logbook.
But I think with who they're bringing on for Prime 4, obviously they're looking to make the game a little bit more action-packed and faster pace, but I'm hoping also still have this kind of level design. I love the level design in Echoes. I love this particular room and this really simplistic little morph ball puzzle. It's not anything like the morph ball puzzle in Prime 1 in Magmore when you get the plasma beam. It's such a pain, especially when you in the original game when you didn't have you don't have spring ball. So that particular puzzle, oh man, it can be kind of just make you rack your brain for sure. But I really do like the level design in this particular game, and seeing that they brought back also level designers from games like Super Lucky's Tale, someone who had worked with Retro in the past, I believe. And so they're bringing back these people and working with people who are really good at level design. So hopefully we'll continue to see these puzzles and things in Prime that kind of break up the constant, you know, so it's not an action game. I'd hate to see them try to turn it into a first-person shooter action game completely. It's definitely got to still be a first-person adventure, but I don't see any issues with them having more of those kind of scripted events, but maybe just on a bigger scale, and also boss battles maybe kind of have scripted elements in those as well. I don't know, I could see that, but hopefully they also continue to have the, you know, the same puzzles and things that make a Metroid game what it is, really. But who else did they hire? It looks like they also picked up a level designer from God of War, and so that's also more of an action franchise. So again, you can definitely see some changes being made to the level design, where we have some rooms possibly that you only go through once. Maybe a room that ties one part of the level to another that then collapses and closes down, and so you have a scripted element, kind of like the Dig or Not sequence in Return or in Samus Returns. But in that sequence, you could still go back through that area even after that. So I don't know. I could see them doing a lot of different things with level design to take the franchise a little bit further than where it's been, but hopefully still staying kind of close to where, you know, where it's been as well, because I think having a Metroidvania design is important for the core fans of each of the Metroid games. At the same time, I do welcome with open arms a change. If they did completely change it, I would give it a shot, and hopefully it'd be great. But I don't know. It kind of scares me to think about. Who else did they bring on? They brought on a producer who had worked with Blizzard and Rockstar. They worked on GTA 5, GTA 4, and Red Dead Redemption, among other games. And so, again, action-oriented open world games, those ones. So maybe we'll have a bit more of an open type design to the level design. I don't think they'll go completely open world. If they do, who knows how long the game could be in development. I mean, if they just restarted development 2 years ago, if they're going complete open world, we might not see the game for another 2 or 3 years. So I don't think they'll do that, though. There may be more of an open world feel to the game. And then if you think of a game like God of War, which is a linear game, but the levels are big and feel open. So that is something I could see working in a Prime game. Oh man. Gotta be careful down here in Dark Aether. And then also it looks like they've got developers who've come over from Gearbox, DICE, and 343. They've worked on games like Halo, Borderlands, as I'd mentioned, Call of Duty, the GTA franchise, Crysis 3. So the cream of the crop when it comes to first-person shooters and action games. So that's why I definitely think that there'll be more action in the next Prime game. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about all the new hires and where they're going, where they seem to be going with the game. I think it's in good hands. Again, I think a Western developer is going to be able to bring that feel back that we had in the original Prime trilogy, and hopefully just take it to another level with the guys that they're bringing on, the games that they've worked on. These aren't just first-person shooters. These are the cream of the crop and really the biggest selling franchises in gaming. You think about games like Grand Theft Auto, God of War, and of course Call of Duty. These are some of the biggest games there are as far as budget. So it also makes me wonder what their budget is for the game and how big they really want to go with this game. I guess we'll have to see, but I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys off here for this episode. We're going to be picking up here in Dark Aegon on the next video. I really appreciate you guys watching the series, and I hope you're enjoying it. But yeah, how do you guys feel about Prime 4? I'm excited about it. at the same time, a little bit concerned. But I think it's going to be a great game, and I think that it's in the right hands. And Retro, I think they're hiring the right guys, and they also have, as I mentioned before, about half of the developers who worked on Corruption still there. So they've got a feel of what a Prime game is, and the base of the game. And so hopefully they're able just to expand and make it better than ever, and we get an amazing Prime game, and hopefully we get to see it soon. Retro. But yeah, guys, I really appreciate you guys stopping by for another video, and I'll see you next week. You have a good one.